Chulin Daf Tes Zayin. We're starting the second line from the top. We're going back to discuss the case that we saw in the previous daf of Muchni Omar Mor. If you use the wheel, it's a contraption which is a wheel, and attached to the wheel there's a knife, and when it turns around, and you put an animal there, it checks the animal. Says the Brisa it's kosher. Atani Frek Gemara. There's a Brisa that says the Gemara says like kashi habasana de pachro. It's not a question. When it's fine, when do we say it's kosher? Besana de pachro, which is meaning like one of the wheels of the Yitzrim who deal with cheres, the people who are potters. They have a type of wheel which is a manual wheel. So when it's a manual wheel and you're directly causing the shchita, then it's a kosher shchita. But when it's a wheel that works like a water mill, the water is what's causing the wheel to turn, so then it's puzzle. Why? Because you're not doing it. It's an indirect cause. The water is shechting, and you need a person to shecht it. Just like a monkey can't shecht, so too the water can't shecht. The Gemara says, maybe you have a different approach, that both brises both are discussing the water wheel. If the water was blocked up, let's say you blocked up with the dam, and then you removed the dam, allowing the water to continue and cause the wheel to revolve and thereby shechting the animal, then it's fine. Why? Because that's called koyach rishon. That's your direct cause. You directly cause this water to be released and to turn the wheel, thereby shechting the animal. But the second revolving of the wheel is not going to be okay, because that's already considered an indirect cause, and you did not. It's not called you shechted it. Just like Rav Papa said, if someone ties up his friend, the ashkel olei bidka demaya, and then you take a stream of water and you put it on him. You cause a stream of water, you veer it for it to go onto him and drown him. Means you intend to murder your friend. You tie him up and you put him up in front of a stream of water that's dammed up, and then you release the dam and the water goes now onto the person and you just drowned him. Says Rav Papa, and if the guy dies, chayiv. My taima, giri didehu. It's not indirect manslaughter, it's direct manslaughter. It's like your arrows. It's your arrows because you directly caused the water to go onto him. The ahanibe, which you utilize, which you caused the death. The ahanibe koyach rishon. That's only talking about the koyach rishon. Rashi explains koyach rishon to mean that's only if it was close, meaning if you tied him up within close proximity of the water that you released onto him. But koyach sheni, if he was further away and it's sort of considered indirect, then it's a groma ba'alma and you're potter. So we see over here again the concept that koyach rishon is considered your direct action. Koyach sheni is not considered your direct action. Yosef Rav Achari Rav Chia. Rav was standing behind Rav Chia. Rav Chia kamed Rabbi. Rav Chia was Yosef Rav Achari Rabbi Chia. Rav was sitting behind Rav Chia. Rav Chia kamed Rabbi, and Rav Chia was sitting in front of Rabbi. The Yosef Rabbi v'Kamer, and Rabbi was saying, "How do you know that shchita has to be when it's disconnected with something that's disconnected, not with something that's attached to the ground?" Avram Avinu by the Akedah, he took the ma'acheles, which means a knife, lishchoit to shecht Yitzchak. You see, it's with something that's detached. Amalei, Rav Lerechia, Mike Omar. What did Rabbi say? He didn't hear. What did Rabbi say? Amalei vav diksiva uftika Omar. He was saying like a vav that's written on a log. Let's say you have a piece of wood which is not smoothed out, a raw piece of wood which has many ridges on it, and you try to write a vav on it. It comes out all jumpy because it's not straight, not smooth. So it comes out all. It's not a smooth vav. So too he was making jest of Rabbi's opinion that it has to be bitolush, because we saw already Rabbi Chia argues he holds the shchita could be with something that's mechuber. So he was basically telling Rav, don't worry, he didn't say anything good. He just said he said something that wasn't glatt, wasn't smooth. In fact, the Gemara of Akrok Amar, what do you mean? He brought a pasuk. What are you talking about? He brought a pasuk to prove his point. How could Rabbi Chia argue? Says the Gemara, according to Rabbi Chia, the kra is zrizusei de Avram kumashmalan. The pasuk is not telling you that shchita can only be with something that's detached. it means that the pasuk is trying to tell us that Avram Avinu was zealous in wanting to accomplish what God sent him out to do. Just like it says, "Vayashkem Avram b'boker v'yachavosh chamayra," and he saddled up his own donkey, and we see he was zealous. So also he came prepared with a knife, just in case there wouldn't be a stone or something, a reed that he could have shechted. So he made sure, because he was zealous, he made sure to come prepared with a knife. Amar Rava, pshita li tolush. Rava says it's simple to me that tolush will say chibroi, that if you have something that was detached and then you reattached it to the ground, le'inyan avodas kechavim, regarding the halachos of avodah zara, it's considered tolush. Have a tolush. What does this mean? What is the nafkamin over here? The Amar Mar, because we said amishtachav l'bayis shaloi. If someone bows down to his own house, asr, he makes it asr. A bayis, a house, is something that was mechuber. Let's say it was made out of trees, or if it was made out of rocks which were attached to the ground, and then you took it, you detached it from the ground, and then you made it into a house and sort of reattached it. Now it's set into the ground, and it's considered like mechuber, right? So what's the status of this house? Is it considered mechuber or is it considered tolush? Says Rava, if you really think that it's considered mechuber, so how could it be that if you bow down to it, we said it's aser? How could it be? The pasuk says that you have to destroy all avodah zaros, Eloheihem, all their gods, al heharim, on top of the mountains. Means the gods, the idols that are on top of the mountains, but v'lo heharim Eloheihem, but not the mountains that they themselves make into a god. Meaning, the only type of avodah zarah you have to destroy if it's something that's tolifish, something that's detached. If it's an idol that's on top of the mountain, but the mountain itself you don't have to destroy. It doesn't have a din of avodah zarah. It doesn't come aser. So, from the fact that the Brisa says that if someone bows down to his house, it's aser, must be it retains its din of tolush even though you reattached it. Okay, so regarding avodah zarah, tolush, we'll say chivra, is considered tolush. Now, continues Rav, the Indian hechsher zroim tanoihi. Regarding hechsher zroim, is something considered tolush or mechuber? That's in machlokes tanoim, says Rav. What's the case of hechsher zroim? You have, in order to make something tummy, in order to make fruit tummy, the Torah says that it has to be wet with one of the zayin mashkin. It has to become wet, and only then it's able to accept impurity. Now let's say you didn't have intention for this thing to get wet, so then it's not going to be considered huchsha l'kabel tuma. It can't become impure if you didn't have intention for the water to touch it. Now there's another din that if you did have intention, but the intention was for the water to hit something that's connected to the ground. Meaning, let's say you directed water to touch a tree that's connected to the ground, and then that water hit a fruit, or a fruit hit the water. Now, you wanted the water to go onto the tree, because you directed it there. Obviously, let's say you wanted to wash off the tree. So you want the water to touch the tree. So that's something that's called v'ratzon. You want the water to be there. So now let's say that water touches a fruit. So now we say that the fruit is not considered huchsha l'kabel tuma because you had kavanah for something that's mechuber. Rashi brings a series of drashos which teach us that the only type of kavanah that works for hechsher zroim is if you're intending for the water to hit something that's talush, because only things that are talush are l'kabel tuma usually. But if you intended it to touch something that's mechuber l'karka, it's not called huchsha. Now this water doesn't count, and even if this water touches the fruit, it doesn't make it ro'ui l'kabel tuma. Okay, now the question that Rava is addressing is, and we're going to see in the following Gemara, is that you have something that's talush u'b'soif chivroi. So does that have a din like talush, and if you intend for it, then it's going to be considered talush and it's going to be considered tamei, or it's considered mechuber and the hechsher doesn't work for something that's really still attached to the ground. So Ditnan, like it says in the Mishnah, if you lean a bowl on the wall, for the bowl to be washed, then let's say it's raining, right? There's water falling off the roof, and you lean a bowl onto the wall in order for the bowl, which is talush, right? And you intend for the bowl to be washed by the water. So then that water is considered b'chiyutan, it's considered intentionally put there, and now if that water touches a fruit, it's going to be considered ro'oi l'kabel tuma. B'shvil shelo yilkei hakosel. However, let's say you put that bowl there to protect the wall so that it shouldn't be damaged. So really you don't want the water at all, you're just using the bowl to protect the wall. So then, it doesn't count, the water is not considered b'chiyutan, it's not considered puchsha l'kabel tuma, because you did not intend for the water to be there at all. Says the Gemara Hagufa Kashin. Now we're going to ask a contradiction within the Brisa, a contradiction in inferences. Amart b'shil shetudach. If you put it with intention to wash the bowl, b'chiyutan, then it is fine. The inference would be habishvil sheyudach hakoisel ein ze b'chiyutan. If, let's say, you took the bowl and you wanted the water to go into the bowl so that you'll be able to direct the water to go onto the wall. Meaning you use the bowl to direct the water to wash the wall. So we have water coming into the bowl, which is talosh, and then hitting the wall, which is mechuber. So the Gemara, that the inference would be ein ze b'chiyutan. The Hodatani, then the Seifa says, v'shil shelo yikla koisel, if you had in mind for the bowl not to protect the wall so the wall doesn't become damaged, then ein b'chiyutan. The inference from that would be but if you did it specifically for the bowl to direct the water towards the wall, then it is b'chiyutan. So we have a contradiction in differences. Basically, we have three cases over here. We have the case where you had in mind for the bowl to be clean. You want the water to clean the bowl. Then you had the case that you had in mind for just for the wall not to be damaged. You don't really want the water at all. And then you have the middle case, where you used the bowl not for the bowl itself, but you're using the bowl in order to wash the wall. And in that situation, we have a contradiction in inferences as to what the halacha is, whether it is considered hochshel kabel tuma or not considered hochshel kabel tuma. Rabbi Elazar says, Tavra, break it up. Misha shana zu, lo shana zu. Really, the Reisha and the Seifa are two different Tanoim, and you have to say that there's a machlekes going on over here. And what's the machlekes? The machlekes is whether tolosh or l'sayv chibroi. Let's say this is talking about a bias, right? We're talking about a house, and the wall is the wall of a house, which is something that was originally connected to the ground, but then you tolish it, you detach it from the ground, and you made it into a house. You made it into the wall of a house. So now this is talosh l'sayv chibroi, and this machlekes, this contradiction, which ends up being a machlokes, a dispute amongst two different Tanoim, this is the dispute. The dispute is whether a house is considered talush or is considered mechuber, because you intended for the water to go to the house, but is the house considered talush, and therefore, and if you intend for water to go into something talush, then it is mekabel tuma. It's hochshel mekabel tuma. But if you did not intend, if you intended for the water to go onto something that's mechuber, so then that's not makabel tuma. It's not hochshel makabel tuma. Rav Papa has a different explanation. He says, "Kula chad tana." This is all going according to one tana. There's no two tanaim going on over here, and there's no contradiction. The way to answer the issue is haba kaisel me'ara, haba kaisel binyan. We're talking about two different walls. A kaisel me'ara is attached; it's mechuber. It was never detached and then reattached. Haba kaisel binyan, but the kaisel of a building that was reattached, and therefore that would be considered talush, detached. If someone, this is what the Mishnah is saying. If you lean a bowl on a wall in order for the bowl to be washed, then but if you do it in order for the wall to be clean, you direct the water through the kli onto the wall, then ein ze b'chiyutan. Then it's not going to be b'chiyutan because it's mechuber. B'med dvar mamur b'kaisel me'ara. That when do we mean these previous words b'kaisel me'ara? When it's attached, when it's like a cave that was never detached. Aval b'kaisel binyan b'shul shelo yilke ha'kaisel. But by a kaisel binyan, but by the wall of a house. B'shvil shelo yilke ha'kaisel, only in a situation when you intend for the kaisel not to get damaged. Only in that situation when you really don't want the water at all you want is for the bowl to protect the wall from getting water damage. Then it's not b'chiyutan. But if you do have in mind to direct the water through the kli onto the wall, then it is considered b'chiyutan because this wall is considered tolosh because it was detached, even though right now it's attached to the ground. Tolosh also b'chivra. Okay, so that's the Indian hechshes roim. Now, by Rava's question that he has is tolosh also b'chivra. The case of if something was detached and then you reattached it, the Indian shchita. What about Indian shchita? So Gemara already discussed it, but now Rav is discussing it. Tashma says the Gemara. We have a brayso that says hayatzur yotzim min. So let's say you have a rock coming out of the wall, or if you have a reed coming up from the ground, and you shechted with it, shchita psula, your shchita is puzzle. So what do you see? You see that it's puzzle. If you took a rock, you stuck it into the wall, and then you shechted with it, it's puzzle. You see, it's considered mechuber. So legabe shchita, talosh, is considered mechuber. So when it says hachma yaskinan, the kaisel me'ara. No, over here we're talking about a kaisel me'ara, a wall of a cave, which means that the rock coming out of it is a natural rock. It was never detached, and that's why it's puzzle. And really, it's considered. Really, maybe tolosh is considered tolosh, and it's okay. Only over here it's puzzle because it's a kaisel me'ara. They can have a diktani, and you can be medayik this. You can infer this from the actual words of the brayso by saying, because it says dumya dekane. What's the next case in the Mishnah? A kana that's oilam me'elav, a reed that's coming up naturally on its own me'elav. So over there also it's attached. So shmamino, we can see from the context of the Mishnah, of the brayso, that it's talking about a natural wall with a natural rock, just like a natural reed coming out of the ground, and really that's why it's puzzle, because it's really naturally mechuber. Toshma. Let's bring another raya, not sakin b'kaisel. We said that let's say you stabbed a knife into a wall, and then you shachted it, it's kosher. So what do you see? That if something was reattached, it's considered detached. Even though you stabbed it into the wall, still it's considered detached, and therefore it's kosher. Where it says no, shani sakin delem vatle. Maybe no, a knife is different because a knife doesn't get nullified into the wall. It's not going to be something that we're going to call mechuber. Maybe if you have a rock and you take the rock and you make a wall out of the rock, so maybe that's called mechuber, because we can understand that the wall of rocks is considered attached to the ground. But if you take a knife and stab it into the wall, everyone knows it's not considered attached. It's not mechuber l'karka. No one has any notion of thinking that the knife is going to have a din mechuber. You took a knife and you stuck it into the wall. That's still considered detached. But how about in a situation where you sort of brought it back to its natural status, and it is considered, and you would consider it attached to the ground? Maybe over there it would again be considered attached. The Gemara says, "Oh, so we see the brayso that says that by mechuber l'karka it's kosher. So maybe you see that this brayso means, like we said before, like we said in the previous daf, when it says mechuber l'karka, it's kosher. It's talking about if it's talosh l'sei chivros. You see that it's kosher. It's considered talosh. Gemara says no. Dilma purusha kemefarish. Maybe the brayso is explaining itself and it's saying my mechuber l'karka. What type of mechuber l'karka? What type of attachment do we mean that it's still kosher? That's only talking about a sakin delim mevatale. It's talking about the weird case of a sakin, a knife that's stabbed into the wall that does not get nullified into the ground. That's the only situation when something is quote-unquote attached that we say that it's fine and it's not really called attached. But in a case like a rock in a wall that was detached from the ground and reattached into a wall, maybe that would be considered mechuber. So we continue not to have a proof. Omar Mar. We said before not sakin bekoisel. If you stab a knife into a wall, v'shachad b'shit tasek it's kosher. Amar Rav Anan Amar Shmuel. Says Rav Anan in the name of Shmuel, Lashon Lasha sakin lemala v'tavar beim lemata. We mean this only if you shecht with the knife being on top and the neck of the animal. You hold the neck of the animal underneath the knife and then you shecht. Aval sakin lemata. Let's say the knife is underneath the animal, v'tavar beim lemala, and the neck is on top. Chayshin and shema yidrus. We are chayshish, we're concerned that maybe because of the weight of the animal that you're carrying the animal, the knife is underneath, and then you're shechting you're shechting on top. The neck of the animal is on top. You're holding up the animal, and you're shechting with the knife under the neck of the animal. So in that situation, because of the weight of the animal, we're concerned that you might end up not slicing through the way you're supposed to. You might end up just dropping the knife dropping the head of the animal, the neck, onto the knife, and that's called drasa. It's going to end up chopping it instead of slicing it. So therefore, he says you shouldn't do it. In fact, the Gemara, what do you mean Vaktan? It doesn't say in the Brisa. We said the exact opposite. The Brisa articulated that both ways are kosher. Bein shasak in lamata, v'tzav lamata, v'tzav bein lamala. Bein shasak in lamala, v'tzav bein lamata. In both situations, it's kosher. On Rav Zvid, litzdadim katani. You have to read this distributively, meaning it doesn't really mean that both cases have the same din. One has one din, one has the other din. And the Gemara is going to explain, like sakin, when it says sakin lemata, that the knife is under it, savar behem lemala, that's bitolush. That's only kosher bitolush. Like we said, because it's a problem if it's attached, because the weight of the animal might press down on it. But if the sakin is lamala and savar behem lamata, if the neck is under the knife, then even it's kosher even b'muchober. So really, we're going to take the brisa out of context and say that the first clause means betolish and the second clause means b'muchober. Rav Papa has a different way to reconcile the brisa with Shmuel's statement that says that you have to be concerned. He's saying that when does Shmuel say you have to be concerned that the weight of the animal is going to might cause drasa? That's only when it's a heavy animal. But the brisa that says it's fine is talking about be'oifa, in a bird. The kolel, that's light, and therefore there's no concern that you can do drasa. Amrav Chistam Rabbi Yitzchak v'Amri Mosisa Tana. So it says Rabbi Chistam Rabbi Yitzchak, and some say it was a brisa. Hey Dvarim, 5 things Nemru Bekrumis Shalkana. 5 things were said regarding a reed. Ein shaychin ba, you should not slaughter with it. Ein malin ba, you should not circumcise with it. Ein mechatchin babasa, you should not chop meat with it. Ein mechatzin bashinayim, you shouldn't use it to as a toothpick to take things out from in between your teeth. And you should not wipe with it in the bathroom. Ein shaychin ba, asks the Gemara, ein shaychin ba, how could you say ein shaychin ba? Okay, the reason why all these 5 things are considered you shouldn't do it is because we're concerned that maybe splinters will come out of the kanen. It's not so smooth, and the little pieces of wood are going to come out, and you're going to have little pieces of wood in your meat. And that's why you shouldn't wipe it in the bathroom. You shouldn't circumcise. It might cause damage, and shchita also. It might penetrate and make a hole, and also it might ruin your gums if you use it as a toothpick. Okay, so that's why you shouldn't use it. Now the Gemara is going to ask on the first statement, "Ein sheichtin ba v'atanya." Don't we have a brisa bakol sheichtin? You're allowed to shecht with anything. Bein b'tzur, whether with a rock, bein b'schuchis, and then bein b'krumis shokana, even with a piece of reed. So you see over here that the brisa says explicitly that you are allowed to lechatchila shecht with a krumis shokana. And now, why'd you tell me that I'm allowed to shecht with it? Rav Papa b'simuni de agma. When is it okay? It's only with a certain type of reed that grows on swamps, and in that type of reed, Rashi explains that when it's dry, it does not break up into splinters, and therefore there's no chashash that maybe those splinters are going to make a hole in the simanim. And therefore, in that type of reed, it's really okay. And this that we said it's not okay is in a regular reed that might have splinters. The ein mechatim baba. So we said you can't cut meat with it. Rav Papa mechatich bakirvei dagim. He would cut with it the insides of of fish. Why? Dezigi, because it's clear, it's transparent, and therefore if a splinter went in, you'll be able to see it. Okay. Rabbi Barhuna mechatach ba'oifa. The rakich, Rabbi Barhuna would cut with it a chicken. A chicken or a bird is soft. The meat is softer than animal meat, than cattle meat. And therefore, because it's soft, it won't cause the splinters to break off and go into the meat, and it won't be a sakana. You're not going to wipe. Says the Gemara, you shouldn't need to say this to us, so we know this already. You don't have to tell me that I can't be mekaneach with a krumis shel kameh. Why? Because I know this from what we said. I'm kaneach b'davar sha'ur shayletes boy. If you wipe with something that is flammable, or the fire can catch on it, then shinav noishris. Somehow that causes your teeth to fall out. So something that's unhealthy. So you see, I wouldn't be doing that anyway. Some say shinav atachtoris means the downstairs teeth, meaning the hemorrhoids. So that's why. So anything flammable, you're not allowed. Anyway, I know already you're not allowed to use to wipe. So why would I even wipe with a reed? It's flammable. Amar Papa, we don't mean wiping in the bathroom. We mean kinuach pi makra kamrinan. We mean if you have a bruise or something and you want to wipe off the bruise and wash it out or wipe it off, then do not use a krumis shel kaneh, because it might have splinters come out and bruise you even more. But of course, when wiping in the bathroom, we know you're not going to use this because it's flammable. So either way, you're not going to use it. Okay. Hakol sheichtin, the Mishnah continued and said, Hakol sheichtin ul oilam sheichtin. Hakol sheichtin, what does that mean? Hakol b'shchita, says the Gemara, this means everything is b'shchita. Hakol sheichtin doesn't mean everybody can shecht. Hakol sheichtin means everything you should shecht, including oif. Vafilu oif. Even chickens, even birds have to be shechted. Okay. La'olam sheichtin, what are the words la'olam sheichtin? Forever you should shecht. Always you should shecht. What does this mean? Mantana, who's this brisa who needs to tell us that la'olam sheichtin, that always shecht? Why would I think not? So who's this Tana that has to teach me this? Amar Rabba says it's Rabbi Shmuel. It's the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel. The Tanya, the pasuk says, Ki yarchiv Hashem is elekechas gevulcha, when Hashem makes your boundaries widen, when He gives you much more land. Kasher diberlach, like He spoke to you and He gives you Eretz Yisrael. When Klal Yisrael are coming to Eretz Yisrael, and you say, V'omarta oichelo basar, I want to eat meat, ki se'aveh nafshcha lechol basar, because you have your heart's desire is to eat meat. So then it says, B'chol avas nafshcha lechol basar, you're allowed to eat meat. And then the pasuk continues to say that you have to do zavachta, you have to shecht. Okay, so Rabbi Shmuel holds that this pasuk, which is in Parshas Re'eh, and it sounds like it's allowing them to eat meat for taiva, b'chol avas nafshcha techal basar. He holds this is because originally in the Midbar they were not allowed to eat any basar. Any basar taiva, any just regular basar they wanted to eat, they were not allowed to eat it. They had to bring it as a carbon. Pasuk in Parshas Achrei Mos, the parsha sounds like if you want to eat any meat, you have to bring it to the Mishkan and make it into a carbon. If you just want to eat meat in your house, you cannot. And therefore comes the pasuk and says that when you get to Eretz Yisrael and you'll be far away from the Mishkan, you'll be far away from the Beis Hamikdash because I'm giving you vast amounts of land, then you're allowed to eat meat at your heart's desire, and you don't have to bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. So Rabbi Shmuel Omer loy ba'akos. So the pasuk is not coming to say only lahatil and basar taiva. It's coming to allow them to have basar taiva, basar that they desire without as a carbon. Shebitchila nes alam basar taiva. Originally, if they just wanted to have basar taiva, to have meat at their desire without bringing as a carbon, it was asr. And then mishenichlesu la'aretz, when they went to the land of Israel, hutar lahem basar taiva. Then it became mutter. So the Achshav Shegolu, and now that Klal Yisrael has been exiled from Eretz Yisrael, Yochel Yachzur Lisun Rishon, maybe I would think that because we left the land of Israel, so maybe it should go back to its original prohibition. And where it says, therefore, according to Rabbi Shmuel, you have to say Lo'elam Shechtim. So Rabbi Shmuel is the one who holds that Shechita wasn't always allowed. Shechita only became allowed once. Basar Taiva wasn't always allowed. To just eat meat was not always allowed. You had to bring it as a carbon, and only once you came to Israel, then Shechita allowed you to eat the meat. And therefore, according to him, it makes sense for the Brisa to point out L'olam Shechtim, that you always have to shecht. Masechet for Rabbi Yosef, why does he have to point out the L'olam Shechtim? Because maybe now that you were exiled from Israel, so maybe we'll go back to the original prohibition that Basar Taiva is Asar. And therefore for him it makes sense to say L'olam Shechtim. Masechet Rabbi Yosef asks, L'olam Shechtim, it shouldn't just say L'olam Shechtim v'oichlin, because the Chiddush is that you're allowed to shecht and continue to eat it. Because before, when they were in the Midbar, they were not allowed to eat. If they shechted, it wouldn't have been okay. They still wouldn't have been able to eat it, because all Basar Taiva was Asar, and therefore the Chiddush shouldn't be that you can shecht, that you have to shecht. The Chiddush is that you're allowed to shecht and you eat it. That's what it says. Why was it originally Asar Mishum Dava Mekarvi the Mishkan? Because they were close to the Mishkan. My time Ishtaru, why in the end did it become mutter? Because they were further from the Mishkan. And for sure now that they're even further, when they get exiled from the country, of course now it's going to remain mutter because they're even further from the Mishkan. Why would we need someone to teach us that L'olam Shechtim? Rav Yosef says Rabbi Akiva so it's not Rabbi Shmuel, it's Rabbi Akiva. Ad kan daf tes zayin.